Welcome back to It's Okay Habibi. In this episode, we're covering everything from dating on FaceTime to how maps can literally change overnight. We're diving into Mo on Netflix, representation in the media, and the emotional impact of global events. Oh, and we might have some thoughts on who actually gets to rename the Gulf of Mexico. Let's jump on in.
We
Ah.
we did it. Key fact.
Me? Giving in.
Alhamdulillah, kunshiyah. That was a much longer story, and I gave you like the one sentence of it, but yeah.
Okay. What was it? Was it right now?
Yeah, that was right now. Like he actually lives
Oh.
near there, and like so we met on Hinge, and we like had, I I don't know what you think about this, but it's like I don't like to make dates with people on Hinge and just go on the date. Like we need to FaceTime first so that I don't waste my time in person, right? And so we did that FaceTime screener, and I did not.
Screener.
It is. It's like that, like an interview. And actually, that is why I didn't want to go on a date with him. It felt like a straight up interview. Like he was just drilling me with questions and it wasn't conversational. And then he also said some things that I don't think he heard, but they were like super condescending. And I was like, I'm not even going to we're just not going to tear apart how he thinks. We're just going to move on. And so I ran into him at the river and I just kept going. And then he called me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't pick up and I just messaged him and I was like, hey, because he messaged me. It was like, hey, maybe we can walk and talk together. And so a call and texting me is kind of, I don't know, it felt a little heavy. And so I just texted back, I'm like, hey, I have a boyfriend now. And being that we met on Hinge, like, I don't think like it's appropriate for us to be contacting each other. So sorry about that. Just wanted to let you know. And then he wrote back. I didn't see the full message, but he wrote back and said, yeah, no, totally understandable. Just I have a girlfriend too now. What kind of boyfriend are you? What? What? I swear the things
Yeah. I'm just thinking like the whole thing is like the walk and talk, and it's like I I never wanted to initiate that, but then I saw you. Maybe we can just walk and talk. No, it's just like okay.
yeah. I don't like the whole saving face thing. Like a lot of guys have done that. With me it's like, oh yeah, I didn't want to anyway, or oh I would whatever. And it's just like, come on, man, just wish
Just
me
say
well. Let me
yeah,
think of you as a
yeah.
very mature person,
Exactly.
and on
Exactly.
him. So that's how my walk went. And I actually like I just like I left the river like as soon as he called me because I knew we were gonna cross paths again. I just kind of left and went the whole other way because and then I was like, Emma, you're an adult too. Like you don't have to avoid this human. You could just pass by and respectfully decline in person. But I think I'm been developed in a way of run away instead of just knowing that like no I can handle this conversation directly, so I'm also learning that about myself.
I wonder if it's actually related really to women in general and safety. It's just for safety reasons you try to avoid instead of confronting, you know.
I would think that's
Um,
100% accurate. However, with this particular individual, like I didn't feel unsafe. So I think, but to your point, I think it's the training of like evade first, first, and then, but then I thought about it and I'm like, he didn't feel unsafe. But then again, that's like the majority of like assaults happen by someone you kind of knew. So who knows if you're ever safe? Very depressing tone to start on.
no, I don't think it's depressing. I mean, that's what happens in the day-to-day life, but that makes sense. You watched Mo?
Many things to say, not just about the show, but like about my experience as an artist, writer, Palestinian, watching it. So, um, I had actually avoided watching Mo forever. Like, right, I'm still needed to catch up on season one, as you know. And so I avoided it forever because even the first few episodes that I watched, which I only watched because we watched them at Pal Perspective Movie Club. So there was like, I had a reason and people to watch with. But as I was watching it, I was like, oh, I started writing a show like this, and I started writing a joke like this, and I started writing and that I never finished. And so it kept reminding me of like my failure, even though I was so happy that like a Palestinian made it. They're talking on Netflix about Palestine, but like it's really hard to separate your ego or whatever from it. And so I really avoided it. And then I guess our conversation and like obviously my duty to my people and like just grow the hell up kind of made me say like, all right, you need to sit and get through whatever this block is. You're better than this. Like sit and fucking watch it. And I did. I called out of work because I was just actually having a very emotional day. My period was raging. And so I was like, I just need a minute. And then I was like, instead of crying about my real life, I will just watch Mo. Everybody said it made them cry. So maybe I'll cry for my people, which is a healthy cry, I think. And so I got over that block and I watched it and I'm really happy I did. I'll stop there because I've been talking for like 5 minutes, but that was initially why I didn't want to watch it. I'm really proud of myself that I did.
Good. No, no. Well, don't stop because I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, it's way more fresh in your head than in my head because I watched it like maybe 2 weeks ago. But tell me, what did you think?
I think from both perspectives of being like that, from that writer perspective, why I feel better, and from the Palestinian Arab perspective, it was great to see because there were so many things in the show that were unique to his story, period, right? Being like running from ICE, being a refugee, dealing with like his interracial relationship, um, trying to keep his family proud, his mother proud, death of a parent, themes of grief. All of those things are universal, but then they were also all happening to him, and that is his actual story. So it was like really cool. Minus the interracial relationship, I don't know anything about that. So I thought it was beautiful that even though it was so specific to him, I felt seen in so many ways, especially as a Palestinian. The way that he did, like, showed the culture from season one, the mom making olive oil, like step by step, to and spoiler alert, to the strip searches in the Ben Gurion airport, which I have experienced as well, and my family and everybody that I know. And so it was like, yeah, this is exactly it. This is what the world needed to see. This is whoever tells this story, as many of us as possible need to tell this freaking story until everybody hears like, oh yeah, this is the Palestinian story. And then within that, he had his own story, which was really, really, really cool.
I like the mixing of cultures as well, because yes, like the highlight is the Palestinian side, but I like that he had an upbringing in the Kuwait and went through their story over there and how they had to leave over there to here because the history of Kuwait, Iraq, story over there too is not light at all either. Um, so I guess there's like a lot to unpack in the whole show. Plus, dating a Mexican Christian person outside of the religious and like how the mom is taking it. That is actually my main highlight too that I wanted to bring up last week, but I was like, let me wait like for you to watch it. Is I thought that was a perfect representation of it. Because if you talked to me 10 years ago, I would have been someone who would be like all about no diversity, like no, it doesn't have to be your same religion, it doesn't have to be your same mentality or whatnot. And like the older I'm getting, the more I am coming to the conclusion that the people before us came to that it just makes everything easier. So even though the girl he's dating is the love of his life and it should be just it, I can understand why his mom is pressuring someone from your religion or culture because it does changes the dynamic. Um, in there. Mine and like my husband is Jewish, but he's Jewish and like not religious, and I'm not religious either. So I think that helps. But I wonder, like, if we were both religious, it's something to to manage. It's just add an extra layer within a relationship for sure. So I thought that representation of the mom was on point because you could like someone from the outside or like someone who's like not familiar with that, they might be. I mean, I think people should be able to relate to it if they're open, like they're watching it with an open mind to see that part of it. Because even like Christian, they would want someone who's Christian, or Jewish. They would rather someone that is Jewish in the family and so on. Um, But yeah, I just thought that was interesting because when I saw it on the spot, I was a little bit triggered. I was like, just leave him alone. Like he loves her, she loves him, she takes care of him. But then I had to catch myself thinking like, actually, even me today, I feel like it's really hard if like I'm married to someone that we're not on the same page about so many like those important things in life.
Yes, I totally agree and would add that's the same thing we were talking about in episode one is that like even within the same religion, you have to kind of be on the same side of the scale, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
you're a 5 times a day praying Muslim that believes, I don't know, that's it. Let's just say 5 times a day praying Muslim versus one that doesn't at all pray, but just believes in Islam. That already is like a difference to navigate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Down to wedding practices, cultures, stuff like that. So I do think, yes, the further the separation is, from the harder it's going to be to balance, especially if you want to have children.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how do we child rear knowing what we know? Um, that, and I wanted to say though, with Mo, I think the other thing I love about it is that universality of like, I do think you don't have to be Palestinian or Arab to love it, right? Episode one, he's talking about not going to the hospital because he's not insured and he cannot afford that hospital bill. As we all know, even when you are insured, you cannot afford that hospital bill. So I love that. I love that, especially in today's climate, like how he has to, fear ICE so heavily everywhere he goes. Just the way that he switches accents, no matter who he's talking to, he has the Southern accent and the Spanish one, the Mexican one, and then he has like the Arab one. Then he just speaks regular old like standard American. And I also thought that that was beautiful because I do think that, uh, especially people with different backgrounds, right? Trevor Noah talks about this in his book. Is like language is the great unifier. And so when you learn how to speak a certain dialect or you put a certain like twang in your voice or whatever, you all of a sudden now have made a friend that you wouldn't have made before, or you can make
Mm-hmm.
a sale that you wouldn't have made before. So I think just like the hustle culture, especially how he got it from his mom, like from them, again, spoiler alert, but like how they had to like get by to escape the many countries. There, I didn't spoil. Then that filtered into how he became a hustler. And I swear to God, like that is how I feel. Like I'm a hustler and a half, and it's watching all the ways my mom had to hustle to get food on the table. And it's just like I do think Ta-Nehisi Coates, last thing, he talks about that in his book too, is that what we get passed down is like this spiritual endowment, is like this knowledge of like how to get by, and even the pain is important because it's like it's what gives us the talent, the art, the depth, right, the meaning, the resilience. So his show does all that, and like I said, it's super universal. 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is crazy.
It
So
is.
clearly, everybody agrees. Everybody has to go watch Mo, please, for
It's
the love of
such
God.
a great show. It's one of the best shows that I've seen. I think it's emotionally intense, yet it's light. You get extremely emotional, but I don't feel exhausted. Even
100%.
though there is like areas where like you're feeling unfairness or you might be emotional or get upset about like this is not fair to be that situation or whatnot. But you just I think I finished the show and felt hopeless. I didn't feel down.
You wait. I'm sorry. Am I hearing you correctly? You finished it and then felt hopeless.
Like hopeful, sorry. I
Hospital.
meant to
I was like,
say
what?
hopeful. No, sorry. I meant to say hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, me
because
too.
even that last part again, we're spoiling about the smile. That was like the highlight for me. And that just like this is it. This is really it because I've been battling that for the last like 2 years of my life. Is it like should I just let go? Why am I overthinking this? Like, can we even do something about it? Can we not? Is this how it's always been? Like all of that. But I felt like the mom's advice was just perfect to summarize everything. Is that really like life is just gonna come at you, and all you do is just smile and just move on.
And
So
remember who you are.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I
I
loved
just
it
love
too.
it.
And I felt like she was talking, like, I loved even the angle they chose for that, right? Like, they knew she was talking to us. Like, they knew who they were doing this for.
Yep.
I
Yep.
loved it. And then as an artist, like, I just want to make sure that I'm making the point for anybody who's listening who like feels like they also are missing the boat on like their idea or whatever. Again, like after watching it, and I'm like, wow. Like, first of all, yes, we do this together, not against each other. So as many of us as possible that can tell the story need to tell it, and also nobody has your story, right? Like, even watching his whole story and seeing so many scenes that would be similar, uh, I'm like, oh yeah, this was not at all my story, and I still have so much to tell. And like, fear is such a powerful
Mm-hmm.
crippler,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so unnecessary to not watch that show for so long. It was so unnecessary. Like, I'm so glad I got my period and had an emotional day and decided to watch TV.
Did you watch both season or just season two?
Yeah, Felicity, I watched all of it. Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
I did like about season one as well, because season one came on like I think 2023, so it was like way before this past year, and I really liked the dynamic between the I can't remember if he was Israeli or he was Jewish. The
The
guy who owns the clothing store
Yes,
that
yes, yes,
was in the
yes.
cafe. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like those are conversation that even before that we're being had between people who are familiar or exposed to the situation. But I think obviously October 7 like put a huge spotlight on it, and it just like people were split into teams at that point. But it has been a conversation. I know the show was trying to make it light at that point because it was getting light, even though it wasn't light in Palestine. It was just worldwide. It was a conversation that there have been traction of people talking about we're not that much different. Like, can we kind of, you know, cross the other side and whatnot? So I did like seeing that, and like because I went back and rewatched the first season before I watched the season two again, and like rewatching it now after October 7th is just different than when I watched it back then. Um, so I don't know, I just really, really like the whole diversity about everything throughout the whole show, like both seasons. It was so, so, so well done.
Also love, like, so a lot of shows do this thing where, Hollywood is looking to get all the buzzwords in, all the check boxes, like, let's get a trans actor, let's get somebody with disabilities, let's get a black person, an Arab, throw a hijab on them, even if they're not Arab, whatever, like, like, they just want the diversity.
Mhm.
So they'll alter the writing and the story to force a fit to make sure they have these check boxes just to be trending, as opposed to being authentic to the communities that should be represented on screen. But they need to be
Mhm.
authentic stories, right? Don't just
Mhm.
force it for the sake of forcing it. And so what I love about this show is how we talked about it checks off like the immigration issues, the refugee issues, the ICE. Well, these are all under the same umbrella, right? But then the dating, the religion, all of these things, and it brought in his brother having autism. How the culture,
Love that.
like how his parents tried to protect him from it by not telling him about it, so they didn't deal right. Not to spoiler alert all that, but like just the views around disability, him having one at all, like none of that felt like they are forcing check boxes. Like I don't even know if Mohammed really have that situation in real life or not, but it feels like it fits. Like everything felt like not forced. 100% Rotten Tomatoes is
Yep.
accurate.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
love that.
Yep.
And the
Yep.
therapy, like how they talk about therapy. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, I
Yes.
love.
Everything. Everything. It's just
Yeah.
perfect. It's very, very, very well done. But again, you watch it and you feel light. You don't feel stressed out. Like we're watching now Fellow Travelers. I don't know if you've heard of it, but so it was another show that came out in 2023 and we just heard of it. But long story short, we've been watching it. It's we have to be on the right mindset to be able to sit down and watch it because it's so heavy. like I feel like my throat is so sore like after every episode. You get angry, you get it's just and they're trying to make it they're not really trying to make it light. They're just telling the story as is. It's hard. It's really a hard watch. So you have to be in the right mindset, and that's something what I liked about Mo is that it was you're feeling all the feelings without getting angry or upset. Like I was able we just binged it in 2 days.
Yeah, same. I binged it over 2 days. The two seasons came in. And like you're right, I do also like as a Palestinian who's sick and tired of some of these like arguments he talked like you talked about with that guy at the shop and he like they make it so funny and like I guess in true Arab culture like we've been laughing at our pain for such a long time. I love when he calls like when somebody says, "Oh yeah, he's Palestinian." And they're like, "Oh no, it's Israel." And he's like, "It's a branding issue." Like it's always what he said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just it's really, really funny. And I did love what the mom, said in season two, where they were like trying to figure out how to honor Thanksgiving by like talking about genocide. And in the end, the mom was like, I don't care about any of the borders. I don't care about any of this. We just have to respect the land, because that's where we're going to go home to. And I was like, yeah, love that. Love everything about this show. There's nothing so even there was a scene where I was like, that was a lot. He like trauma dumped on a child who was like going through something. And he was like, take care of your family. When I'm trying not to spoil, but basically the kid when he was about to try to like get into the country and there was a little kid playing soccer and then he went
Oh,
to
yes, yes,
yeah,
yes,
that
yes.
part. And I'm like, I was about to like make a funny Instagram post, like he trauma dumped on a child. And then literally in the next scene, they're like, yo, you kind of trauma dumped on that child. I'm
Yeah,
like, this
yeah,
show is perfect. Like,
yeah.
even where they did something too much, they know. They called it out. They just, I just, I cannot wait for season 3, season 20. Wherever they go, I will follow. I'm a fan for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I don't know if I want season three. I don't know why. I feel like I am nervous. How do you top this? And I don't want to ruin it because sometimes, like when you keep adding seasons, the story starts getting. I don't know. I like where it's like it has a really good ending for me where it was
Nah, nah,
left
nah, nah.
off. I am. You're.
Here's where I would push back. I know that I agree with you because even as it was ending, I was like, well, like, where do you go from here? Right. And I guess that's up to the writers to decide. But the thing is, like, current events are currenting. Like, let's say we lose all of Palestine, as you see in the West Bank. They are attacking, like, they just shifted the genocide over. They displaced 45,000 people or 30,000 people in the last, like, 2 weeks alone. And so as we are continuing to go through this loss, as immigration and ICE start to attack our communities more and more, writers like Mo and his team are going to help our communities talk about it, heal from it, laugh about it. And so I can't imagine where it would go because like our nation and our world hasn't gone there yet. But
Mm,
I trust in these writers to get us through whatever's happening next.
mm. We're having two different.
You just wanted to end on like a happy note with like where things were.
Yeah, I think you're watching it and you're healing through that show, and I am experiencing it differently. I'm experiencing it as a show. Like as a show and hearing Mo's story and like it's like an autobiography
Gosh, if
and
it's
and
now it has to go into story.
you're seeing it more as this
Yes, I think you're 100% right.
like this is the story. This is what realistically he meet with people from all different walks of life, and these are the interactions that I have. He's battling his own. I don't want to go to therapy. His own trauma, his own, the loss of his father, blah blah blah, and culture. Like it's just it's a beautiful autobiography. I mean, I can relate to so many areas and aspect of it, and it's nice because it gives exposure and light to something that people are not aware of. I saw a video like of him saying like people don't understand how hard it is, to be granted an asylum. Like in the US or any country per se, you know? And I know that firsthand because that's how I came to the US. Like I've been through what he's been through, and then it costs a lot of money, and it's not as like you go and apply and like that's it. You get it. You know what I mean? Um so there's areas where like I could relate to plus the story, but it was still like an autobiography, so I'm seeing it as a story and like leaving an open ending for him. But yeah, we're just experiencing a different one. I think that's the beauty of it, is that he was able to tackle so many different topics, and people are just viewing it their own way.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I hear you now too, because now if we're going autobiographical, this is the best place to end it because like we know where his life goes, right? In real
Mm,
life. Like he's a
mhm.
comedian and he has a show. So it's either the show goes that way or they go into fictional, like where do you go from here? Um, yeah. So okay, I hear you.
I don't know. I guess
Noted.
I mean, hey, I'm here for whatever. I just it's like watching Harry Potter and like the last movie, you come up with something new and like, no, no, just don't ruin what I just had. That was really nice. Like, yeah,
Yes, for me that's the live action stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Like Lion King live action. I was like, what the hell is this? I was
yeah,
pissed.
yeah. What
And
happened?
I guess I was expecting the same feeling I had when I was like 4, you know?
Yep, yep, yep.
Hold on one sec. I just want to turn off the dishwasher because I'm feeling making noise.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. Um, did you know or notice today I don't know if it happened today, but my friends were chatting me about the fact that they changed the map to say Gulf of America instead of Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, is that new?
Yeah, so
Oh my God, it's
it was on
happening every day. Something is
yeah, so it
happening.
was so that was the thing that we noticed, right? Like Apple Maps still says Gulf of Mexico and Google Maps said Gulf of America. And I was like, what the hell is this? And so I was texting my boo about it and I was like, look,
Oh, it's
it says Gulf of
true.
America.
Yeah, you want to see it?
Yeah.
Wait, how do
Um,
I need to figure out how to share my screen. Oh, screen.
you bought it. Look, the experts.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I do. Gulf of America right there.
What? And I typed Gulf of Mexico, and here you go. It takes you to
Wow.
Gulf of America.
Yeah, so I had three
I
different
mean,
images
I
it
mean,
says.
I
One
mean,
of them actually said like Gulf of Mexico and then under it Gulf of America. So like I think they're still figuring out what they're doing, but like I said, Apple did not say it. Apple still says Gulf of Mexico.
who decides those things? This is
That's
where,
it.
like, I don't know.
Well, first, right, that was what I was when I texted my boo about it, I was like, "Oh, look, like this maps changed happened." And he was like, "I don't know, man." Like cuz he every day he's very into the news and every day he's like, "So they just shut down this department. They just shut down this department." And so he was like, weird people, honestly. And I was like, "You know what? I'm very happy about this just because it shows people that a map can change overnight and that doesn't mean that it was always Israel." Right? Like everything goes back to Palestine. Like we know it was the Gulf of Mexico. And now all of a sudden they're just gonna call it the Gulf of America. And then they're gonna change the history books and be like, it was always the Gulf of America. What are you talking about? Like and then he said, yes, and I think it's also important to note that look at how quickly Google changed it. Like it's like you said, the decision makers along the both corporations and government, if they're in cahoots, what are we gonna do?
So I'm reading through it now,
Of course you are. Yes, yes.
and it says that, well, it has to come between the U.S. government and I guess the Mexico, because it's actually related to the Gulf of Mexico, but it's like where the borders are. So the United States Board on Geographic Names, they need to provide their approval, and then a case will be submitted to the international recognition. So the inter and international recognition has to be submitted to the United Nations group of experts on geographical names. So it goes to the United Nations. So I think to your point that it was changed just on Google Maps because it was just Google, but I think like officially legally it has to go through higher approvals or whatever. I don't even know what's going on, honestly. Like I am just this is just beyond. I mean, okay, I'm gonna give a controversial opinion on this. I kind of don't see why not. I know why it's happening. I'm talking geographically. I mean, it is in the border between the US and Mexico, so why was it called the Gulf of Mexico? Maybe I'm just ignorant about it. I don't know why it was called the Gulf of Mexico, so maybe we need to start with that. Why was it originally?
Amel and Noel will research geography and
Um,
colonization.
but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's
I don't know either, but
so
I do
indigenous
think,
name.
huh?
So the indigenous people of the region, such as the Mayas and whatnot, has their own names for the waters. However, it was through the Spanish explorers where at the time the region has a name. Aztec Empire, the Spanish refers to the Gulf as Golfo de Mexico, and that's how it started. So it was basically Spanish colonization of South America. So it
One
wasn't even
colonizer passing
indigenous.
it to another.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, I mean, we'll see what it is tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. I know
Um,
it's not funny. I don't know if some people are probably freaked out. I mean, I'm just intellectually thinking about it. I mean, it's the continent is America, so it could be the Gulf of America, but I get why it was changed. It was not because of
I
probably
think I
that.
don't really
But
care about the name. I think about the implications, right?
yeah,
Like, okay, what other names are we changing? You know, Trump's already talking about like Canada being the 51st state and Gaza now being owned by them. And so I don't know. For me, it's more like how are we making decisions? How quickly are corporations following suit? How much is the American public or the public in the general like world paying attention to these changes that are happening? Like I think that's what I'm more worried about is what does this mean when they can do this? But again, it goes back to you and me episode one. Like all of the changes that were happening, we kind of it's not that we're indifferent. It's just like we've been watching genocide unfold for 15 months and the general public is like still going on about their lives. And I think that showed the powers that be, like how far they can go. And so now they're really pushing it. It's the boomerang that we've been talking about on social, right? Like it came back home. Like they're gonna do what they want, and I don't know what's gonna stop it.
yeah. I don't know what's going on inside of me, if I'm being honest with you. I am There's a huge shift within the last couple months in me, and you probably can tell that because I went from like upset, depressed, angry for a year to like numb. Um, and there's like and I don't know if this is me pushing, you know, like I'm bearing emotions in and like acting like I'm just brushing off and moving, just moving on. Um, but I think there is something broke. There's an innocence inside of me that broke this past year because I believed that as humans, we evolved. I know the argument of it's always been like that. We've always had someone come and take over. If you are in power, then you're just in power, you take over, and then the person who's not in power, like that's it, you just take it and accept it. I get that. This has been
Yeah.
the history of generations of humanity. Um, but I think within the last year, or at least the years that I grew up into, it was more there was this false hope of where we as humanity we created the international core, we created the United Nations, and this is where your rights will not be taken and someone will protect you, someone will just get involved, someone will stop it. And like when you see what you see, when you saw like this past year, it was like it's like somebody like slapping me in the face. It was just like no, no, no. Like this is not true. And I had to like it took me a year where I was like pushing that. No, maybe it's not that it's not true. It's just like we haven't, spoken up enough of it. Like And now I'm kind of unfortunately getting back to accept that it's human nature, um, that some people in power, they just lose humanity, and there is nothing that you can do or say that is gonna make them act differently. Um, I guess we can argue what pressure you can put on them or whatnot, but I don't know. I'm like processing everything. I don't know what's going on, but I just feel very numb about all of it, and I don't even know what is right or wrong, if it's worth the fight or not. Is it I just don't know. I don't know. There's so many, yeah, question marks.
That's okay. I feel like a lot of people are going through that process too, because also it's a lot of sacrifice to continue to, just like in mom, right? The mom every day is watching the news and being depressed, and her daughter is like we also owe it to our people to live. We also owe it to ourselves to enjoy life. And my question was like, I wonder what like people on the ground in the zones that we're trying to save would say. Like, I wonder what they think our rights are not being in danger. Um, I would actually love to know that. But even at the end of the day, like, each person has to decide for themselves. But for me personally, I also feel a little confused, but what I tell myself is like the work that I do daily, like the jobs that I have, the volunteer work that I do, like those are all the ways I help out. Even if it doesn't feel like it's doing anything, at least I feel like um, that I'm trying to figure out how to live a life that makes me feel like it is leaving the world a little better than when I came in. And I think that's the only way I cope personally. Like, did you are you thinking about the betterment of society and what we're leaving behind? And I think you're
Yeah.
one of those people. So
I think that's what you just said is what my therapist told me when I was going through it. And I wonder if actually that was the reason of the shift in my head. Because she's like, I think I was just looking for answers or like a book that is like, just give me something to follow. Like, what is the right thing to do? Um, and then she said, I think you're just stressing too much about it. As long as you wake up every day doing your best and being a kind person to yourself first and everyone around you, that's all you can do. And that really shifted my brain about everything, because sometimes you feel like you just want to change the world, but then like you really might not be able to change the world. You might be able to change your community around you. You might be able just to help your family. You might be able, like, whatever it is. Um, but maybe that is why I think now that we're talking about it, I'm like getting more realization. I wonder if it was me taking on the responsibility of like, I can talk to as many people and change their mind, and this is when change is going to happen. And now I'm accepting that it is not my job. I can do it if it happens. Like if we were in a conversation or like using my voice to this platform, or like if we had a conversation, but I don't need to be making it my job every day. I'm waking up to talk about it. And I know this might sound hurtful for someone who might be hearing this. Um, and it is, and it could sound like, yeah, like it must be nice to have the privilege to not think about that or do about that. Um, and I agree, it is a privilege. Um, but I guess I'm just getting to do an acceptance of I don't know there's ever gonna be enough. Like there's anything that you can do enough, or just, you know what I'm trying to say? Like sometimes
I
when you
do.
try, like if I have $100 and I can go help someone with $100, but then like I go to have dinner, let's say at a restaurant, does that mean I did enough because I gave $100? Like you could still not go to that restaurant because someone else is maybe needing of that other $20. And if I'm a millionaire, I have $1 million and I donate 500 and I'm taking a private jet somewhere, is that enough? $500,000? Because you can still not go on a private jet. You know what I mean? And I don't know. That's just I'm
Basically, like if
processing.
you spent every dollar, every breath, every moment trying to make the world a better place, it still wouldn't change the world. It would just change moments for people, maybe.
Exactly. I think you could just do them like as small moments, and that's what I'm accepting. Um, for me, I'm not saying I'm not someone like that's not my career. I'm not a social worker. I don't even know where to start with all of that, but I'm saying for me where I'm at, what I can do in my day-to-day life, like this is as much as I can do with what I
Yeah,
other than quitting my job and just go literally on missions to volunteer, which
right. And even then,
someone
right?
could argue that and say, yes, you can go to, like, I can just go now, fly and go there and maybe try to help out in like areas where, someone is in need. I'm not just talking about Palestine, like anything in general, but specifically about Palestine here. Um, but I don't know.
Yeah, but
I don't know
so
if it's enough.
even then, even if you like dedicated your whole life to it, it's still a drop in the ocean, right?
Mm,
And if more people dedicated their lives to it, then it would be the ocean. But the odds of getting the whole world to dedicate their lives to other people, well, we see the world we live in, so there's that. But I do think that it's partly the problem is, like you said, trying to quantify, like, I want to help everyone in the world and I want to see the world be saved in my lifetime is the problem. And it is going back to like ego. It is um, personalizing your goal for the world, which like by personalizing I mean like you're putting your timeline on it. I like
mm,
the timeline of humanity is way before us and way after us. This is a small blip in a small section of a huge universe, right? And so putting our definition of success onto it is what burdens us. That's the whole point. Like you thinking you have to save the world, you thinking you have to save as many people as possible is I think my opinion is what leads to burnout the fastest. It's like I just said, like I couldn't even watch a television show for 2 years because of the fear that built up in my head around my failure. Now, extrapolate that to watching a genocide and feeling like you can't save these people and you want to see them be saved today. But the problem is the way that people live their lives. The problem is like the culture we're passing on and down. And so little by little, you being nice to your neighbor, you giving 5% of your paycheck to donations, you like stopping and giving your food to the homeless person on the street and knowing you did enough for that day. That is what's going to actually change the world in the long term of things. So I do think you're doing enough. And I do think the problem is wanting to see results that are unreasonable in a short amount of time. It's not possible for us to save the world in our lifetime. So it is good
yeah.
that you've accepted that, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, thank you for saying that. Yeah, I think I'm getting more um accepting. Like I'm just being kinder to myself and that I think a part of me was it could be ego. Um, but a part of me as well is wondering if it's coming from genuinely wanting to help or is it the needing to for your voice to be heard because our voices hasn't been heard
I think it's
for a
both.
long
Like there's
time.
vindication in it, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to vindicate the life that I've lived, that my father and mother have lived, the shit I went through. I want to vindicate that, and I want to help others. Like I think about what my mom went through all the time, and now she's gone. And there's memories that like I can't have with her. There's talks I can't have with her. There's history I have no fucking idea. You tell me to name my grandparents right now, I cannot. And I know that's not my fault. Like I know that's the oppressor's fault.
Mm.
Um, and so yeah, so I sorry I cut you off, but yeah, there is vindication
No,
in this.
yeah.
Like I want the oppressor to, fall off a cliff. Um, but I just have to be reasonable about like where for what I can do. And so I think my journey has been a lot to deal with forgiveness. Like I hope that, and again, right, I'm a Muslim here, so like I think about the Day of Judgment, and I hope that on the Day of Judgment I could actually be like, I forgive like all of these people.
Yeah.
And that would feel like a clean soul to me, because I just think hurt people hurt people. I I don't think people started out with like these evil endeavors, and then, like you said, power corrupts. Um, so anyway, I just care about being a good person, honestly. Like,
No,
and that's where
I love that you talked about the forgiveness, and I wonder because that's what I was questioning in like the last what's been going on with me for the last 2 months is that is it me pushing down emotions or maybe I'm just forgiving people. Like even on my in my personal life, I've had emotions in the past about relationships or family members or friends or whoever that might have done me wrong or like the relationship just fell off or whatnot. And I am at a place now where I'm not hung up on it anymore. And I'm able to see that even if someone was trying to intentionally hurt me, it's where is it coming from? It's probably was coming from their own fear of something. And then that could apply to even oppression, like countries or whatnot, or others, because I've had conversation with family members who had just the total different opinion of me. But if you come to think about it, a lot of them are having that strong opinion because they have their own fear and their defense mechanism is, yeah, I would rather that person die rather than me, or I would rather that person gets deported rather than my life gets affected, or I would rather this or that. So it's really coming back to people's own fear and maybe accepting that is helping me process it differently where like I'm not hung up on it anymore. Uh, I think there was this need not just for help, from my end, it was as well trying to change people's mind. Like I truly believe that if I spoke up enough about it or explained it enough, and one thing you taught me and what you said one time with one of the people that you dated, you said, I don't want to be with that person because I want to be able to come home to someone that I can just be me. I don't want to be teaching again. And and this is kind of the acceptance that I'm getting to is that it is not my job to teach. Like the information out there, you've got all the resources in the world, especially in this day and age that we live in. So either you want to make the effort to do it or not, and it's up to me to decide if the extent of my relationship with you or not.
100%. Yes, I love that. I do, and I think that's important to restate. Like, if when people come and they ask me about, like, oh, can you teach me about the history? Can you teach me about reputable places to donate? Can you teach me this and that? And it's like, yes, I'm really glad you want to learn. I'm really glad that you trust me. I'm really glad that you're opening your eyes, but also you're putting the work on me for something you can go research. I would much rather prefer you come to me and say, hey, I'm about to read this book. Or do you have any recommendations for books that I can go read to teach myself the answers to A, B, C, and D? Um, I do welcome questions, of course, but like I cannot teach, right? Think
Uh-huh.
about social media alone. I cannot teach tens of thousands of people each one-on-one why for this case Palestinians deserve the right to exist. Like,
If
you gotta do some work.
I mean, if you're that curious about it, you probably will be encouraged to just go and do some research on yourself. Like you don't have to come to Amal to tell you.
Exactly.
Like we just did that. That was the perfect example. Where like, why was it called Gulf of Mexico to start with?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
We could have just left it off and like not that we planned it, but it was just out of curiosity. I was like, yeah, why? And like, is it okay to change it to Gulf of America or not or whatever? Like it was just out of curiosity. So yeah, I
100%. And
think
like what I did was burn myself out like early in the genocide, and actually like for the first like 6, 7 months of it is because I didn't want to turn not one person away, because I'm like, well, their minds are open right now. We have to capitalize. Like, Americans in general are super lazy about like research. Like, we just want to watch Netflix and stuff. I said we. And so, I didn't want to turn anyone away, but like after a while, I was like, help me. Like, if you're worried about being human, help me. If you trust me, help me. Go learn and teach. And I have a lot of people, a lot of friends who, and people I've just met online that did do that. And now
Sure.
like we're lifelong friends. I'm positive. Because they would send me resources. They would send me articles. They would speak and say like, what are your thoughts about this? But like after they formed an opinion. So, I know I'm speaking like a lot about the people who don't do the work, but a lot of people did do the work, and I cannot tell you how much energy that gave me. Is it time?
I wonder. I can't. I didn't.
Yeah, we're at 52. I would
Okay.
say it's time, and we didn't get into, and I don't want to start getting into it now because I feel like it's a big subject, but like last week in our after talk, there was a lot
I
of
still
stuff.
have it in my notes. Yes.
Yeah, so we'll get to like maybe gender roles, and stuff. I don't know if you want to summarize it differently next week.
Yes. Gender roles. I already have my notes. Masculinity, straight men, gay. Call it gay. I don't know. That was my note. And well, it
Yay,
was
end
it
of
was
sentence.
basically gay and comparison to women. So basically comparing gay to women and um yeah, I had another
I love that.
inappropriate
Yeah.
thing that you know what I'm talking about that I mentioned, but we
So
posted it
we'll get
as
into
we're
that.
not saying. Yeah. So maybe that's next week. So we'll talk about it.
Yes, we
Oh,
will.
look at that. It's okay.
I remember doing it. I'm so proud of us. We're doing good.
All right. We'll talk again next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please consider leaving a comment and a review. It helps us improve and reach more people.
We're all just trying to figure it out one conversation at a time. So go easy on yourself, trust the process, and remember, it's okay, Habibi.